So hi Sailesh, we just met like 2 hours ago and already became the best friends for many reasons. And I just learned that what we will find in the HoloBox, you've played a role in that. Would you want to share that story?
Well, a small part of it, connectivity, network connectivity. What you have in the back of a HoloBox is an RJ45 and a gigabit Ethernet connection. And so that's the one that I worked on in 1996. I mean, so way back when the internet was a small thing that nobody knew about. Internet, in fact, the Newsweek had an article in 1995 saying the internet is going nowhere. Yeah, who's going to read things on the internet? Who's going to buy stuff off the internet? It's going nowhere. And at that time, Cisco was a $1 billion company, and Cisco was having trouble getting 100 megabit to work on the same cable. So they approached me as a systems engineer and said, can you take a look at this protocol and see what we need to be doing differently? And so the next meeting I had to do my analysis of the cable infrastructure and what you can do on that. And what I found to my astonishment is that we can actually do a gigabit on that cable fairly easily if you use digital signal processing technologies. Okay, and so then when that falls back to 100 megabit, it will be very robust. But the 100 megabit standard itself had problems. So it had a very short scrambler, so there are a lot of issues with the way it was constructed. So the next meeting I went there and I made my presentation and I said, on that cable I can do a gigabit, but the 100 has a problem. But when you fall back to 100 from a gigabit, it will work beautifully. And everybody laughed at me. I said, you're crazy. Are you talking about doing 10 times faster on the same cable? We're having trouble getting 100 to work. We'll believe it when we see it, dream on. But they were kind enough to open a study group for us to. So he said, if you can convince enough people, then you'll have a standard. So by the end of that year, in November of 1996, they knew that my ideas were serious because there were more people doing in our meetings than in any other meeting. So there were 5 different proposals on how to do gigabit. And so we went through the whole process of figuring out what's the best way to do it. And the standard came out in 1999. And even then, people didn't think that it was going to work because to them it was all Greek. We were talking about DSP, we were talking about sampling the signal and then reconstructing it at the end. And so anyway, by 2003, we were selling 150 million units every year, and the internet was taking off. Intel had bought my company got acquired by Level 1, which got acquired by Intel for $2.2 billion, and the internet just took off. And all these companies became $400 billion companies. So that was the explosion of the internet. And then in 2003, I went to the same meeting, the standards meetings, and there was this other startup company that was talking about doing 10 gigabit on the same cable. And this gentleman who told me I was dreaming was egging him on, saying, of course you can do 10 gigabit on that cable. And I said, stop it, it's not that easy. It's not just cranking things up by a factor of 10. And his response to me was, you proved me wrong, right? So you showed that he could do a gigabit. Maybe he knows something that you don't know. So I'm going to give him a chance now, right? So I just threw up my hands and said, okay, this is going to be fun. So that ride went on till 2006. 2006, the standard for 10 gigabit came out, and I was the only one who voted against the standard. And I said, it's not going to work because they were cutting corners, there were all kinds of problems, political issues. Because by that time, the internet was a big money enterprise. So I stopped and I started working on the environment. And 10 years later, maybe 2013, I was having lunch with the head of the Ethernet committee from those days. And I asked him, so what happened with 10 gigabit? And he said, you know what happened to it. We're still not getting it to work. So gigabit is still the backbone on copper. And I think what I saw on the back of your HoloBoxes are all gigabit Ethernet ports.
Well, thank you so much for this huge contribution. Thank you, Sailesh.
Thank you. It would have happened anyway, right? It was just happened to be there at the right time.
Yes, you just happened anyway.
Right.
Thank you.